our lives are a culmination of the choices we make. Every single decision we make, doesn't matter how big or how small, every single one directly influences and impacts our lives in some way. And I sit back and I think about this all the time because I think about all the small things that I've done in life, all the decisions I've made, and how changing one simple thing would have completely redirected my life and I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And one of the big decisions I made recently, and a very tough decision, was walking away from an 18-year-long career. This is a career that, I literally had since I graduated college. I started the career in 2005, and it was amazing. I have nothing but good things to say about it. The job took me around the world. I've been to 16 different countries, 40 different states. In a lot of cases, some of these places numerous times, more times than I could probably even possibly count. I've seen a lot of this world. I've experienced a lot of this world, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So it's kind of crazy for me to think about the fact that I walked away from something that it literally took me half my life to build. And I mean blood, sweat, and tears. I worked a lot. I busted my butt to make it to where I got in that career. I built a name for myself around the world. I was promoted numerous times. I climbed my way up the corporate ladder. I was making pretty decent money, probably not as much money as what I should have been making for what I was doing. But I was happy with it because I didn't need that much money to get by. And the work was very fulfilling. It was very impactful. I felt like by me doing what I was doing, I was making a difference. And I enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed the people I work with. And that, when you're working a job, is everything. That makes all the difference in the world. So even though I love my job and it brought me opportunities that were basically my wildest dreams, it's things that I never even thought I'd be doing in life, I had to walk away from it because it wasn't allowing me to chase my dreams and find my purpose. The fact of the matter is I worked a lot. Especially when I became a manager, I worked way more than what I should have actually. I ended up working, 14, 16-hour days sometimes more than that if I was traveling. And if I was home, I would work, extra hours, which by the way, I was salaried. I didn't get overtime, so I basically worked for free when I would work over. And when I was home, like I said, I would work over, and then I had an hour commute one way. I would come home. The average time I would get home was about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I had 2.5 to 3 hours to myself and I had to go to bed. And I'd wake up and I'd do that all over again. So it didn't leave a lot of time for me because there's a lot of things in life that I want to pursue. I have a lot of dreams and a lot of ambition and a lot of things I want to go after. And just doing that and not having that spare time was really keeping me from that. And then when I was on the road, I literally worked from the time that I went in first thing in the morning to the time I went to bed. Because again, I was a manager. I'm responsible for turning in reports and stuff like that. So I'd be out working on the job and then I'd get back to the hotel room and I'd be on my computer literally until the time I went to bed. And the only time I really had to myself was the weekends. But the weekends you're basically playing catch up and you're doing the chores and stuff and all the things you've been putting off throughout the week, or you're just taking time to get out and explore and actually see the world and step foot outdoors for once instead of being, stuck in the job. So I really just didn't have a lot of time for myself. And eventually that started to wear on me. And I know you can probably relate to this because it's kind of the way things are set up. It's set up for these companies to kind of squeeze as much as they can out of the employees. And it really doesn't leave you with a whole lot of time that you can spend either on yourself or with your family. Because one of the things I've realized is that yes, money's important, but it's not everything. Because if you're not happy in life and you don't feel fulfilled and you don't feel like you have a purpose or a meaning and you just can't really find meaning in life, then money really doesn't matter. And that's what I found to be true for myself because I've taken a lot of time to reflect. There was a time in my life where I got really sick because modern food is absolutely toxic. And I was eating the stuff that we're told is healthy, and it's actually turns out it's not healthy, and it destroyed my gut. And I was on the brink of death for over a year. But through that experience, it really allowed me to focus in on what is important in life. And what I found to be important is not money. It's not materialistic stuff. And when I talk about materialistic stuff, like I built my house and I paid it off and I was able to walk away from the workforce and stuff like that. If I were to lose all that, it's not about losing the stuff because the stuff is always replaceable. It's about losing that time. Because if I lose my house or I lose my land, I'm losing half my life because I worked roughly 20 years of my life. I'm 40 years old. And that's essentially like throwing 40 years of my life away. All that time is just in vain. And when I say I worked that 20 years of my life, I mean I worked it. I built a name for myself because I worked my butt off. I was one of those people that I would do whatever it took to complete a mission. I would do whatever it took to make sure that I was doing my job. I didn't slack off. I was very intentional about what I did at work, and I took it very, very seriously. And like I mentioned, I worked way more than I should have, but for a lot of these companies and a lot of these jobs, that's what it takes to get ahead. Like if you want to make a name for yourself and you want to move up, you have to work. You have to put in the work, and that's exactly what I did. So for me, it's more about the time. And that's another reason why I ended up having to walk away from that career, because I realized how much time I was losing. You know, I was getting close to 40 years old. I realized that all the stuff that I wanted to pursue in life, if I continued on that path, I simply wasn't going to be able to do it. And one of my big focuses and my big dreams was to be able to help people. It was to be able to give back. I want to make a difference in the world and create an impact. I want to have some sort of legacy that I can leave behind and feel good about the life I lived, knowing that I did everything I could to inject positivity into the world, to create a positive impact and make a difference in people's lives, and to give back. That is very important to me. And by me being stuck in that job, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do that. I would end up working my entire life. I'd work, all my best years of my life away while I was in my prime until I made it to the age of retirement, which for most people is 65 or beyond. And there was a pretty good chance that when I got there, I was going to be too tired and too depleted to want to do those things, to be able to do those things. And the further I progressed in that career, the more I saw that happen. I saw people all around me getting up there in age, and they would talk about retiring, and there were people that would pass away before they got there. There were people that would think about retiring, and they would get to that age, like right there at 65 or maybe even 66 or 67, and something would happen with their health or with the health of their significant other, and they wouldn't be able to retire because they had to have that insurance or they had to have that additional money, because getting sick is very, very expensive. And the more I saw that, the more I realized that it's not about the money. It's about the time. Because for a lot of these people, they had the ability to walk away sooner, but they wanted that extra money. So you have to really weigh things out, and you have to make a choice. This is another big decision. Do you wait for more money, or do you get your time? Do you get more time? Do you get out early so you can have that extra time? And what it came down to for me is that the time was more important. And not just the time, but the things I wanted to pursue. Helping people out. That's what ended up being more important to me. So that's what I did. And that's what led me to the decision of walking away from that career. And it was a very, very tough decision. And to be quite frank, I question that decision every single day, because now I work more than I did before. I mean, literally, most of my day is spent working, but the only difference is that now I'm working towards something that is actually true to me. It's something that I want to be doing, not something I have to do because it's the job. It's my path. It's the decision I've made. It's the things that I am chasing after. And I take comfort in knowing that by me being on that path, it's bringing me the fulfillment and the joy that I want, because I'm able to now give back. I'm able to help people. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So the time that I spend doing these things, it just feels different. And it doesn't impact me in the same way as it did when I was working that job. Because now I'm in control of my destiny. I am my own limiting factor. If I don't succeed, it's because I didn't succeed. If I quit, it's because I quit. If I fail, it's because I fail. If I make it, it's because I didn't give up. And that means a lot, because it means that I'm completely in control of my life now. But I will say that transitioning from a career, when that's really the only career you know, and you've spent half your life doing that thing, transitioning out of that into something completely new, it's pretty tough. It's not easy. All these people out there that claim starting your own business and doing something for yourself is easy and anybody can do it, I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe everybody's cut out for this. As a matter of fact, I probably would have been totally fine working a 9 to 5, not getting into what I'm doing now. And in the grand scheme of things, it was a lot easier, because now it's 100% uncertainty. I'm uncomfortable every single day. I traded a life of certainty and comfort for a life of continual discomfort and uncertainty. But I'm working through it. And I take comfort in knowing that when I'm uncomfortable, I'm growing. because you can't grow and you can't learn if you're constantly in comfort. And that too is another big reason why I walked away from my career, is because I got very comfortable. I realized that that was the only thing I knew. And if I didn't move away from that, that's all I was ever going to know for my entire life. And I really don't think that's the way to live. I feel like we should always be growing. We should always be striving towards something and actively working towards something, because by doing that, you're giving yourself purpose. You're giving yourself a sense of direction. When we get comfortable, we start to get stagnant. And when we get stagnant, we're not learning and we're not actively pursuing something. We can lose our sense of direction. We can lose our purpose. And that can cause us to be very, very unfulfilled. And it can be really hard to find meaning in life. And for anybody out there that's thinking about walking away from their job to build something for themselves, I would say take a lot of time to really reflect and think about what you want. Because all these gurus, all these people out there telling you that it's easy and anybody can do it, it's simply false. As the old saying goes, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with working a job. The job I was in, I loved it. I mean, I think that was a fantastic job. And if it came down to it, I would go back to it in a heartbeat. I have absolutely nothing against it, other than the fact that if you do have other ambitions and you have other things that you want to chase after, it can hold you back from that. And if you're very passionate about the things that you want to get out of life, that can be a big problem. So I would say take some time and reflect and really think about that, and think about what you really want. Because if you think that you're going to give up your 9 to 5 so that you have more free time and you can start a business and start making all this money, that might be true for some people. There's outliers out there that are very savvy and they can make it happen. But for the majority of us normal people that have been working jobs our entire lives, that transition is pretty freaking tough, because you've worked your whole life doing this thing for somebody else, and now you have to learn to do all these things and be everyone in the business all at once. And that is pretty tough. You have to be the employee, you have to be the manager, you have to be the assistant, you have to be the admin, you have to do everything. And it is a lot of freaking work. But is it worth it? For me, it is, because I'm now rediscovering that piece of myself that I was missing before. So happiness, fulfillment, and even success, it means something different for every single one of us. Each one of us has to blaze our own trail. We have to find our own path and figure things out for ourselves. And it can be really tough to know if the decisions you're making are the right ones. But I take comfort in knowing, and you should too, that it doesn't matter what decisions you make now. Those decisions are going to carry you forward, and they're going to lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to get there. And those decisions and those choices you make are also going to help shape you into the person you're meant to become. Because when it comes to life, there's no guarantees in anything. The path I'm on right now, it may not work out. You know, I may figure out in a year or two that me helping people just isn't my vibe. Maybe I don't want to help people. Maybe I'm a bad guy at heart. And I figure that out and I go in a completely different direction. But I'm not going to know, and I'm not going to figure that out until I try the thing. And that's what life's all about. It's just trying different things. Trying different things until you find the thing that sticks, the thing that works, or the thing that resonates with you. And one decision I made that's a prime example of that is the fact that I wanted to retire from the workforce by the age of 45. And one of the driving forces for that was because I wanted to start a family. I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to be able to be home with my kids so I could watch them grow up, so I could be there for them, so I could be there to teach them, and be there with my family and support them, and not be stuck at work every single day. So because I made that choice, and I committed myself to busting my butt, and putting in all those hours, and climbing the corporate ladder, and saving my money, and living very frugally, I was able to save up enough money to retire myself from the workforce at the age of 39. But the crazy thing about that is that by the time I got to that point, I had decided that because of the way society is now geared, that I'm no longer going to get married and start a family. But because I made that decision, even though my life didn't pan out that way, and that's not the direction I'm headed now, I was able to retire myself from the workforce at the age of 39. And I beat my goal by 6 years, and honestly, I'll probably be better off financially not having a family, because I don't have a family to support. It's just me and my dog, and our expenses are very, very small. So even though my life turned out completely different and it's not what I had planned, everything eventually worked out, because I'm not going to have that family legacy to leave behind, but now I'll have something entirely different where I can still give back to the world. So if you're out there and you're feeling kind of lost and you're not sure what direction to go, just take some time to reflect, figure out what's important to you, think about what you want to get out of life, and take comfort in knowing that even if the choices you make turn out to be the wrong ones, you're going to learn from that experience, you're going to grow from being uncomfortable, you're going to become stronger, and eventually you're going to end up exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Our world, our reality, the universe around us is very complex. It's extremely hard to understand, and it's impossible to predict. But even in all this chaos, there's balance. And everything always has a way of working itself out.